Good afternoon from Washington, D.C. We're again live from the World Bank Youth Summit, now with Paul Warren, project manager of Gain Forest. Before we start the conversation, just let you know, you can follow this conversation also on Twitter using the hashtag C4C Zone and WBG Youth Summit. Paul will present to you a few slides about the Gain project and how he's using blockchain to protect the Amazon.
Thank you. Excited to be here. As she mentioned, I am a team member of a team called Gain Forest. There was an event a couple of weeks ago, a COP23 side event, where they flew in 100 hackers from around the world to brainstorm different ideas to use the blockchain to tackle the problem of climate. I was lucky enough to be a member of the winning team called Gain Forest, and I'm here to present our hackathon project to you. You can see the team, the other three members, David, Dominic, and James, are unfortunately based in Europe and could not be here today. At the very high level, we wanted to tackle deforestation through incentivizing people to protect the rainforest and then enabling them to do a great job doing that. As a team, we got really lucky. We all had wonderful chemistry and a ton of experience. Between us, we have 13 years of professional software engineering experience, about 10 years of machine learning and data science experience, and about 4 years of blockchain experience. You can see all the logos of all the places that we've worked. To go a little bit more detail into what we did, we built a smart contract-based staking system to transparently incentivize people to protect the forest. We also built a satellite imagery analysis model to predict which areas were most at risk for deforestation in the future. To put some more context on that, we had about 24 hours to do all of this, so we had some talking and brainstorming ahead of time, but in 24 hours we managed to deploy the smart contract, build a functional web application, train the machine learning model, and then put together the presentation that you see here. You can see all of the code that we did here on this GitHub thing. Everyone tuning into here probably already knows everything about climate, so I'll keep the problem definition short. Deforestation is bad, the Amazon is good, and Amazon deforestation actually happens. The number one cause of deforestation in the Amazon is local subsistence farmers cutting down trees in their backyard in order to make room for crops and cattle to grow. And it turns out that there's a very simple solution, which is to pay them not to do that. So there was a study published in Science about last year. They went to 2 towns in Uganda. They gave some Ugandan landowners small financial incentives in this first village to say, hey, I'll come back in 3 months. If your trees are still here, I'll give you some money. And the other village, they just let things happen as they normally would have. And they found out that these small financial incentives, on the order of about $28 a month, really cut down the amount of deforestation by about half in this one study. So on an order of $30 a month to a small landowner in the Amazon will cut deforestation that they're doing in half. It's the number one cause of deforestation. So it turns out to be one of the really surprisingly, shockingly effective ways of preventing people from cutting down trees. However, there's a big problem, which is finding the right people to pay. So in the Uganda study, they had to pick a village and then go door to door and say, like, hey, you live here, that's your backyard, you're planning on cutting down those trees, this is the only trees you can cut down, we'll pay you not to cut down those trees. And doing those additional verification steps is a lot of work. As a technologist, as a team of technologists, we wanted a technology-based solution, a scalable solution that would minimize the amount of time you had to go door to door. The big insight that we had is that anyone who has a financial incentive in the outcome for a particular plot of land is incentivized to make sure that there are forests there. That is, we don't need to know that those are your trees in the backyard. Doesn't really matter if you are or if you're a landowner, if you're a squatter, if you're a company, if you're a nonprofit. It doesn't really matter. If you're an investor, it doesn't matter at all, as long as you have a financial stake and there being trees in this plot of land 3 months from now, then you will do everything you can to make sure that there are trees in that plot of land 3 months from now. So all we need to be able to do as a team is identify which areas are most at risk for deforestation, and then convince people to put down financial stakes and have some financial incentives to make sure that trees are still in that areas of rainforest at the end. We can do all of this smart contract style block. This is where the blockchain stuff comes in. You have donors. This could be the Red Fund. This could be individual donors putting money into the smart contract. You also have stakers putting down something. For example, you could say, hey, local farm owner, give me $1. And if there are still trees in this plot of land 3 months from now, I'll give you $50 back. You have the Oracle. The other problem for validating this is in the Ugandan study, maybe you'd go back to the village and you go door to door and you would look at the trees in that forest and you would manually say like, oh yes, there are trees there. Fortunately, we can automate that. We can use satellite imagery to say, oh, there are actually trees still there. So once you have this contract done, it all happens anonymously. It all happens on the website. It's all automatic. There's not that much need for door-to-door staking once the system is up and running. To give a concrete example, imagine you have these 4 plots of land in the Amazon. You choose an area and you put some stakes on it. You wait a couple of months and you see where did deforestation happen. It turns out it happened a lot here. So the people who staked on that area lose their stakes, and that money goes to deforestation efforts elsewhere. And the people who protected their forest where deforestation did not happen get additional rewards. And if only you can adjust the number of awards, so if only some deforestation happened, you can give them a smaller reward. There are many different ways of making this, but the core idea is just make people put down stakes and then encourage them to make sure the trees are still there by giving them bigger rewards if the trees are still there later on. Automated through satellite imagery. There are a bunch of existing people who do satellite imagery deforestation analysis. Here are some of the names. As we were looking through them and what they were doing to automate the smart contract verification and deployment, we realized as machine learning people that we have all of this data about the past and we can learn from all of these examples to predict the future. So we also built a neural network model. Algorithm kind of looks like this. To predict which areas were going to be deforested next. So you can see this is a heat map of where deforestation actually happened. This is something like what our model output for our model could be. This is what we actually did. So we got a bunch of images from GLAD in particular, and we had a bunch of pink dots representing these are the deforestation alerts. We used a specific technique in deep learning called convolutional adversarial neural networks. We trained it on 8 GPUs overnight. It took about 12 hours to automatically recognize patterns that were happening. You can see on the left is what actually happened, and on the right is what we predicted would happen. And you can see that there's a pretty good overlap. Like this looks pretty close to actual reality. So for about 12 hours for a machine learning model, it turns out that there's a surprising amount of structure that you can learn from this. And then here's another fun side effect. So this is a GIF. You can see in this particular area right here. So this is what actually happened, and then this is what we're predicting will happen over the future. People who are currently trying to prevent deforestation in the Amazon, like we would be able to point to this and say like, hey, this particular area is at risk. Like go take care of this. We'd adjust the staking rewards up. We would encourage people to go do interventions in that particular area. And we can triage interventions in rainforests, not just in the Amazon, but around the world. So the future work, we as a team, we would love to do a pilot project for this with the staking system model. In particular, we'd love to productionalize everything we built right now and work with people actually trying to protect the rainforest in various regions of the world. That is everything I got. I believe there are some questions now.
Thank you so much, Paul. And let me just let everyone know that you can leave your questions on your comment box if you're watching online. And if you're following the conversations through Twitter, use the hashtags C4CZone and WBG Summit to leave your questions for Paul. First of all, Paul, we're talking about a very innovative technology here to make your project a reality. We're talking about blockchain. For people watching that have not a big knowledge about this technology, can you explain it a little bit better?
Absolutely. So currently, when people record signed contracts, that tends to go in a PDF, which is then stored in someone's personal laptop, which could be lost or stolen or modified. And you never really know exactly if that PDF they're showing you is the one you signed a year ago, unless you have your own personal copy. So there's a lot of chance for foul play in situations like this. This also applies for transactions, which is what the blockchain was originally developed to do. If I'm trying to record, I give you $10, somewhere a bank has to write down like Paul gave Paula $10 and write that down in their little central ledger of truth, and that everyone has to trust that that bank does not have any funny business going on. The blockchain is a wonderful technological innovation to make sure that you don't have to have that central authority. Without going too much into the details, it means that if you have enough people with the same database constantly talking with each other and trying to update together, you don't have to have any one single universal source of truth, which means that I can now give you money without having to involve a bank. And everyone can trust that money actually changes hands, and you now have those $10. You can automate this. You can build on top of that the smart contract system, which automates the I give you money if this condition is met. So in this case, the satellite imagery deforestation alerts would be the oracle, and the oracle would tell this smart contract, which is this bit of code floating around in the internet somewhere, hey, send money right now. The transition was met. The condition was met. And then the smart contract would work with the blockchain to do this peer-to-peer transaction without any central trusted authority involved.
Thank you so much for that explanation. I believe it's very informative for people watching online. Just another question. You're talking about reducing deforestation in the Amazon around 50%. When do you intend to achieve this goal?
It depends a lot on who's willing to partner with us. So in the Uganda study, it cut deforestation by the local squatters in about half. We think that's one of the biggest causes, the biggest cause of deforestation in the Amazon, also in Malaysia, also in Congo, and many places around the world. But we're just technologists. We don't really know that much about the climate world, and actually trying to affect real change requires interacting with a whole host of people. I mean, we're here at the World Bank Youth Summit, where we're getting the chance to talk to people from hundreds of countries around the world in various organizations. Where the World Bank is a perfect partner to build a project like this. So if there is all of this support from existing organizations and people currently trying to fight deforestation, if there are people who will help us go to the Amazon and sign people up, we can build the technology to do all of this very quickly. I think we could give us a couple of months and we would have something that we could use for a pilot study. Eventually, deforestation, I would argue, let's say 3 years. 3 years, we can make a significant dent in deforestation if this technology was to try and be productionalized.
You're also asking people to donate to your project. For those who are willing to do so, is it possible to track the investment they're doing through the project?
So when the system is up and running, it will be totally possible to map my individual donation to a particular plot of land. As in, one thing that I really don't like about giving money to charity, and this is maybe a bit selfish, but I really want to see where my money is going, like who exactly am I helping? Just because that's, I'm trying to make a difference, I'm trying to help people, and if I give money to the Red Cross and then it just goes into this black hole and I never hear from it again, yeah, that's not very satisfying. A really nice thing about having everything based on the smart contract, based on the blockchain, is that the money that comes in is mapped to this particular address, which you can then say is given to this particular address, which was staked on this particular plot of land. So you can map like my $10 went towards protecting this square kilometer in the Amazon rainforest. And I think that's actually a really powerful tool to help people donate and continue donating. Like, people, I think, will actually see where their money is going. And I think that's a huge difference from how a lot of charities are run right now.
That's the power of internet. It's also interesting to let you know there's already people that are watching willing to partner with you for this project. So thank you all. Just one last question. You're one of the youngest leaders around the world. Your generation is considered the most important to tackle climate change. Mm-hmm. How do you see the role of youth that are playing nowadays to tackle this issue?
I think, well, actually, first off, to answer your question, to everyone out there watching who would love to partner, we would love to hear from you. hello@gainforest.org. So if you go to gainforest.org, you can see our website and a little bit more detail. If you email hello@gainforest.org, I'm happy to send you slides. We can set up a talk. We're very much interested in moving forward with this. That's an open invitation to absolutely everybody watching. Even if you just want to learn more, I'm happy to chat. To answer your question about the role of youth in tackling climate, that's a tough one. So to give a bit of background, as you know, and as many people watching probably know, people of my generation are a bit miffed at the situation we found ourselves in. We're sort of born and told that, hey, all of the past couple hundred years of industrialization sort of screwed you over. Like you might not have kids who live to see the world. That's a pretty big problem. Like, oh yeah, the Great Barrier Reef, it was this wonderful thing, but like your kids are never going to see it. These rainforests, they're going to be like in the history books and not like a place that we can go and see with our own. That doesn't make me feel very good. That doesn't make people of my generation feel very good. We feel like we were handed, the hand of cards that we were given was a bit stacked in the wrong kind of ways. And we would love to fix that. Not just for our generation. I think it's important to realize that like nobody who's solving these kinds of problems, they don't really do it for themselves. They do it for their future generations. Like I recently got engaged, and so I'm thinking now, like, oh my God, in 5 years I could be a dad. Like I could have kids, that like actually changes what I want to do. I want my kids to live in a better world, and so I am really trying my hardest to make it so that when I do have children, those children, like I can welcome them into a world that I think will actually welcome them back. And it's really important. So the actual executors, people my age who are doing stuff for their children, they're getting the training right now, particularly in new fields like blockchain, like artificial intelligence, like virtual reality. There are all of these wonderful new technologies which we are growing up on. We're growing up on smartphones, we're growing up on the internet, we're growing up on this international, like globalized, connected world. Like it's normal for me to, after this call, after this interview, like go call someone who's currently in New Zealand and then talk to someone who's in Malaysia and then talk to someone who's in Uganda, and I can do that back to back, not a problem, thanks to the wonders of the internet. And we are used to this new generation of tools. It's a completely different mindset and a completely different set of tools than people had access to in the past. And I am really looking forward to seeing what happens when this current generation of people who are fluent with these new generation of really powerful tools, when they really enter the workforce, when they really start their own companies, when they really join these existing organizations, what they can do with that. I think anything that I could say, anything that I can predict is much less important and much less impressive and much less surprising than what will actually happen. As they say, truth is stranger than fiction. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what the truth is.
Thank you so much, Paul, and thank you for joining us for this live conversation. If you want to know more information about Gainforest, as Paul said, go to gainforest.org. We have another interview coming up, so stay tuned from the World Bank Youth Summit. Thank you so much for watching.